Hello everyone, and welcome back to my video workshop on making, repairing, and restoring wood dolls. Today I'm going to start us on part 5 of my series, and as promised in my previous videos, we're going to make a full-bodied wood doll. Our previous doll didn't have legs, but this doll will. But the arms will be very similar to the ones that we made on the mannequin doll. So the point is that some of the skills that you learned in my previous videos will be applied to making this full-bodied and fully jointed wood doll. This doll was based on or inspired by the Groot Natal dolls of Europe, mainly Germany. Some dolls of this kind were also made in England. So without further ado, let me get started and show you. The first thing we're going to try is the torso. As I promised in my previous video, we would actually start from scratch on making a torso for our wood dolls. Okay, now I've shown you the doll we're going to make, and I said we would start with the torso. Just want to show you the block that I'm using to make the torso out of. It is about 3/4 of an inch thick and a little under 3 inches long. Okay, and what you can see here is I drew an outline of the body just to give me some reference start. Okay, this is where you can get creative. You can have a very curvaceous torso or very plain. You could emphasize the chest area, de-emphasize the hip area, whatever you would like. But as I said, these are the guidelines for when you're going to put it on the scroll saw to cut the torso out. Now, one thing I did do before I scroll saw my torsos, I drew my hole for the shoulder area. And you'll see later what we're going to be doing is putting a dowel through, like this. We're going to be putting a dowel through the shoulder area because that's going to be the base. These 2 points are going to be the base for the arms. Okay. I was very lucky this year, or I should say 2017, my family got me a miniature or small Dremel Moto saw. It's a scroll saw, very good for cutting out small pieces, and I'm going to cut out the shape of the torso for my wood doll. You can see I already have my hole for the cross piece that's going to go across the shoulder, and let's give it a try. I'm going to just do it for a couple minutes to show you how it works. Okay, that got me started. It's a little uneven. That's one side. But what I'm going to do is even this out when I get on to the sander, the oscillating sander, and I'll show you that in a little while. Meantime, I'm going to go off camera and do the other side. Okay, what I'd like to show you now is just a short sequence of using a large oscillating sander. I have cut out my torso on the scroll saw, and as you can see I have a lot of sharp edges and I need to refine the shape a little bit. Now the oscillating sander does make a lot of noise. It's a rather large piece of equipment, but it is fast and very effective. So I'm going to show you a little bit of my sanding on this. So then you can see that I'm getting a little better shape, what I wanted, evening out the two sides. Next I'm going to soften the sides and make more of a rounded waist. Okay, I think I'm going to do the rest with either my Dremel or a handsaw. So I just wanted to show you that you may want to invest in something like this. It makes the project go very fast. However, I think whatever I did here, you could probably also do on the with a Dremel and a sanding barrel. But I thought I would show you this just in case you had access to one or would like to buy one. Okay, now that we have our torso cut out with our scroll saw and we've taken some of the edges off with our oscillating sander, the next step will be to make the slots in the base of the torso to accommodate the legs. This would be the mortise part of the joint, and I'll show you that on our model here. Okay, as you can see, the leg needs to go into the joint and can move up and down like this. So what we're going to do is going to be a two-step process. The first thing I'm going to do is drill a hole about 1/4 of an inch from the base of the torso. Of course, see, I had the torso turned upside down. This is actually the top, and this is the hip area, okay? But for me to mark it, it's easier to hold it this way. Okay, so I'm going to drill 2 holes, and then I'm going to use this as a guide as to how far down to go to make my slots. So let me make the holes, and then we'll go on to show you how to mark for the slots. Okay, so now we have our 2 holes, and what I'm going to do next is draw some lines up from the holes to make 2 lines right in line with the holes, and those will be my saw lines. And the idea is I'm going to saw from the top down till I get to the hole, and hopefully a nice little chunk of this piece will pop out, and that will give me my slot. So now I have my torso nice and snug in my vise, and what I'm going to do is start some slits with a hacksaw just to mark it so I can get the oscillating saw started. Okay. Okay, so I made 4 nice channels to start my oscillating sewing. And what I'm going to do now is cut down to the holes that I drilled, and hopefully once I reach the holes, the pieces of wood will just pop out. Okay, let's see how that worked out. One already popped out as I was sewing it. Okay. Now the other one still is sort of caught in there. So what I'm going to do is take my X-Acto knife and see if I can pop that out. Being a little stubborn. Oh, there we go. And there we go. Now I have my 2 slots. These may have been a little narrower than I wanted, but what I can do is take my sander, either on my Dremel or by hand, and widen the channels a little bit, widen these slots. Because what we're going to do then is be putting the leg in to make the mortise and tenon joint. So, just to recap, I wanted to show you what we got so far. We have our torso scrolled out and sanded for the shape. I haven't done the final sanding, the finishing sanding yet, because what I like to do is put all the features on in case something goes wrong. I'd have to start all over again. So I put the holes in and do the slots, and then I'll do the final sanding. Okay. Next we'll be working on the legs and the arms, and I'll show you that in the next segment. Okay, so as I said, I have most of my holes and the slots cut out for the legs. The one thing I neglected to point out, though, is that I do need a hole, a small hole drilled through the base of this torso to insert a wire. And that wire will make the hinge, actually, on which the upper leg will swing back and forth. So I'm going to put a hole in the bottom of the torso, and I'm going to use my hand drill, and I've already marked the hole with a pick where I want to start. And the trick here is to make sure I go down nice and straight, because I want to be able to go through those 2 right down through the 2 slots I made. Let's see how that worked out. Okay, then find a piece of wire, and we're going to try putting it through, and it goes in nice and evenly. I don't know if you can see on the inside, but the wire did go through, and later it will catch the flange of the tenon part of the leg so that it can swing back and forth. Now, the previous video workshop that I did, we made the mannequin doll, and I showed you in great detail how to make the arms, cutting the dowel on the chop saw, and then making the slots and the flanges for the mortise and tenon joint, and attaching the arm to the shoulders. We're going to do basically the same thing for our full body doll. The only difference is that we're going to have a bar going across the upper torso and extend out to attach the arms there. But basically the construction of the arm is very much the same. So what I'm going to do is make the arms, and you can refer to my previous video to get the specifics. I will give you the new dimensions. As this is a bigger doll, the dowel will be a little larger in diameter and length. I'll give you the dimensions in a slide. However, if you wanted to change the dimensions for yourself, that's okay, just as long as you keep things consistent. I like to keep the upper and lower arms of similar diameter so that the joint is flush. Okay, I'm going to cut the dowel. 2 upper arms, 2¼ inches, and 2 lower arms, 1 3/4 inches. Upper arms, lower arms. Okay, I've cut my dowels and I've made marks and used my pick to start a hole in both the upper and the lower arms, and now I'm going to drill those holes so I would have some place to put the wire through to hinge the joints. Okay, so now I have my 2 upper arms with holes, the top and the bottom. And I have my 2 lower arms with their holes. Next, I'm going to cut out the flanges and the cup hand bottom for the lower arm. And we're actually going to have 2 slots, one on each end for the upper arm. Okay, so now I have my upper arm dowel in my vise. I'm going to take my oscillating saw and make a slit in the top and the bottom of each of these two dowels to make the mortise part of the joint. Okay, so you see I have that started, and I'm going to do it 3 more times, 1 for the bottom of this one and 2 for the other dowel. Okay, now don't forget, even though I was able to make a slot with my oscillating saw, I still want to finish off the slot, make it as wide as I need, and take away some of the excess fibers of wood with my grinding tool on my Dremel. And I'm going to do this for each of the 4 slots that I made. Okay, now I cleaned the slot up really nice. If it's not wide enough, then I'll come back with my Dremel and make it a little wider. Okay, now that I have all my slots and holes in my upper and lower arms, what I'm going to do is round off the tops of some of these parts, just because I don't like the real sharp edges. And I'm going to do that with my Dremel saw and a barrel head sander. Okay, I'm just going to round this off. Not too much, just to give it a finished look. One. Okay, here are 2 pre-cut dowels for my legs. They are each going to be, the legs are going to be a little bit bigger than the arms for my larger size dowel. The diameter of these dowels is 3/8 of an inch, but the lengths are about the same. They are 2 1/4 long. All right. This is my upper leg, and it has a tenon on both ends. And here is my lower leg, which has the mortise on the upper part and a stub or a post down here that will go into the foot. Okay, now you can see these 2 will fit together. Now you may have noticed I don't have a hole drilled in my mortise or my tenon. On the legs, I do that on purpose because I put them together and drill the hole as through both parts, so I make sure they line up. Because these are bigger pieces, sometimes it's harder to get them to match up. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to drill the hole through here, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, now I made my mortise and tenon joint for the leg. Okay, and I put my placeholder wire through, and later on what I'll do is I'll be putting the top part of the leg in the torso, and there we have our functioning leg. Okay, in order to make the feet, I took a bead and cut it in half. and I made a peg at the lower end of the lower leg to fit into the bead hole, and that will make my foot. So depending upon what shape or size of bead that you use and cut it in half, that'll give you your foot. You can either now shape the foot a little bit with a Dremel, or I find sometimes if you can find an oval bead that has more the shape of a foot, that would work out. But that's up to you. Okay, right now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about making the head and the face for these dolls. Now, in the previous video, when we made the mannequin doll, I showed you how I used a wood egg that has a nice shape to make the head. Now, this wood egg looks a little bit bigger than the head on this mannequin, but that's because I had cut the base off so it would fit nicely onto the top of the torso. However, I also indicated that I was unhappy with the face on that previous mannequin and I wanted a little more definition. So I took you through the process of carving out the head shape and the face of the wood egg to put on the mannequin that we made together. Okay. However, this doll is larger, so it needs a larger head. So I moved to the next size egg, and I'll show you the dimension of that in a slide. Okay. And I shaped this egg. Again, this egg looks so much bigger than the head on this doll, but that's because I carved it down. And this is what I started to do for this video. Okay, so you can see that I started shaping the egg by carving a neck area down here. All right, and a chin. All right. And basically I rounded off the top, for the top of the head. All right. Okay, so for this video, I'm not going to, on camera, show you how I carve out the face. What I will do, however, is insert parts of the video of my previous workshop where I did carve out this face. And you can see how I got the detail on the face. Okay. Then I'll come back and show you the completed head for the larger full-body doll. The process is the same, but the results will look a little different because this head will be, of course, much larger. I'm going to start by grinding out 2 indentations where the eyes would be with a grinding sander on my Dremel. I'll see this close up just to get it started. So now you can see I'm getting a little bit of definition on the face. I'm following the line from my nose and under the eye line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and work on this a little bit more. And when I come back, we'll change the head on the bit on the Dremel for the next tool that I'll be using. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, I'm back and I put a different kind of head on my Dremel. If you can see, this is a very small grinding tool, kind of got a spirally shape to it. And I'm going to use this to define the small area under my eye and across the nose. Again, I'm going to go off camera and finish up these indentations, and I'm going to change my Dremel head to the next a sanding head to show you how to now smooth out some of the rough areas. And I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and the head that I changed on my Dremel is a round grinding tool. It's pretty fine grit, and what I'm going to use this for is to smooth out the areas on the face which were left by grooves that were left by the much smaller tool. And I'll show you how that is effective. Okay, now my poor head here is sort of got a square shape. I wanted to make some indentations here where the ear would be. So what I'm going to do next is put a coarse sanding barrel head on my Dremel, and I'll try to redefine the chin area going up the sides here as well. I'll be back. Okay, so with my coarse barrel sanding head, I was able to smooth out some of the lines and increase the indentations a little bit more on the sides of the head. So my face is starting to come out nicely. Here is the carved out head with a full body doll. Again, I carved out depressions for the eye area and shaped a chin and jaw. The specific features will be painted on. And here is the full body doll with all the joints attached using wire and jeweler's pins. Notice how the shoulder is attached. The shoulder is also a mortise and tenon joint. If you fit the joints snugly, you can position the doll, limbs, and head to hold various poses. I thought you might like to see how the two mannequin dolls that we made in the last workshop turned out. The one on the right actually lent itself to look more like a man. It was taller, had more of a square jaw, and a larger torso. Sometimes making dolls is a very organic process, and you sometimes don't know exactly how they're going to come out. For those of you who are wondering what I look like, my husband slipped in and took a quick candid shot of me working at my oscillating sander.